level to keep it relevant to banking, to insurance, to telcos, etc. So, but we're going to kick off first with the profile of a fraudster. So, a lot of the organizations, in terms of gender, who do you think is most likely to be a fraudster? Male or female? We have an overwhelming response from Madame Front here that says males. Gentlemen, would you like to respond to that? Well, in fact, Madame is correct. So, in over 1,200 cases that were surveyed, 65% of the fraudsters were male, 70% were female, and those of you that are mathematically inclined will have figured out that we don't hit 100% there. I think we get to 82%, which makes you wonder about the remaining 18%. They might not be sure in which category they are. But anyway, that's a debate for another day. So, right, so in terms of age, so is it the youngsters, the 18 to 35-year-olds? Is it the 35 to 55-year-olds, or is it the older than 55s? Where's your biggest threat area?
18 to 35.
Right. Any other? 36 to 55. Absolutely. That's where 68% of the fraudsters, the category that they fell in. The youngsters, 18 to 35-year-olds, only 15%, and then older than 55 were only 8%. So maybe the rationale behind that is by the time the guys get to this category, they've done enough stealing here. So they can now start tapering off on the stealing. Because the pension plan is already in place and they've done enough stealing. Right. Years of service. Where's your biggest threat? The new recruits, people that have been there for a while, so let's say 0 to 3 years, 3 to 6 years, over 6 years. Where do you think the problem lies? Right, the more than 6 years. 38% of the fraudsters fell into that category. 0 to 4, 21%, 4 to 6, there's a slight dip. Not quite sure what the rationale is behind that. And then the 38% in the more than 6 years. So that really talks to somebody that's been in the organization for a long time. They understand the processes, the checks and balances in place, which the knowledge they built up over 6 years of service, for more than 6 years, and they're then able to perpetrate fraud a lot easier. Right, level of seniority. So, is it the staff members? Is it management? Or is it the directors? Management. Okay. We have white collar, well, someone that says white collar is predominantly management. Any other guesses? Yeah? If your boss is in the room, you don't need to be, you can answer anonymously. Right, this is what it looks like. So staff members, 23%, management, 32%, and they just put the directors at 29%. So it was obviously a close race. And this obviously talks to management is in a position to override controls, to collude a lot easier with either internal staff, with staff members, or with external parties. So they really have the opportunity. But yeah, it's so between management and the directors, that's where the risk is. Okay, just in terms of collusion, so the interesting thing is, which really talks about internal fraud, is that in a staggering 86% of these cases, either current or previous employees were involved in some form of collusion with an external party. So that's where, irrespective of what industry you're in, the internal fraud threat is a very real and big one. Because typically what criminal syndicates do is they engage and coerce staff members to understand exactly what the control systems are, what the checks and balances are that are in place, obviously in preparation of them targeting the organization. So internal fraud is a very big deal. Right, so if you're sitting there wondering, do you fall in this profile of a fraudster? So, well, if you're male, 36 to 55, have more than 6 years of service, and you're part of management, that should answer your question. You're a high risk. Right, so, but gentlemen, I tried to mitigate the embarrassment that we're obviously suffering by virtue of that number up there, by digging up this little newspaper article which relates to the $10 million fraud that Air Zim suffered, where the CEO and who's a male, and the legal secretary, which fortunately for us guys is a female, were jailed for the insurance fraud perpetrated at Air Zim. So at least I was able to dig up a newspaper report and the lady was involved. So this at least saved some face for us. The results of this survey came from the 2015 Global Profile of a Fraudster survey, which was done by KPMG. Right, if we look, the cost of fraud and regulatory non-compliance. So I'm just going to, this is obviously on the presentation deck which you have, but if we look at, for example, stuff like cyber fraud, some of the earlier speakers spoke about the extent of digitization in our business. So whether it's banking, insurance, telcos, digitization is like a tsunami from a business perspective. And so with digitization, you obviously have, from a fraud perspective or a compliance perspective, you have a huge mountain to climb because of this big data deluge that we're facing. So we need to, from an operational perspective, gear ourselves up to be able to deal with all this data. But by the same token, we also, the fraudsters also have easier access into the back end of your systems and organizations. So if you take, for example, where face-to-face contact with a bank official or with an insurance person, when you want to take out some form of insurance, if you can do it digitally, the guys are anonymous. So the fraudster sits and he connects remotely, applies for loans or applies for an insurance policy or healthcare cover, whatever the case may be. He's anonymous. Okay, he's working through a website. So that also enables him to, for example, launch multiple applications, and by manipulating details on his application, he could see exactly, what combination of criteria would give him success in terms of securing a loan or whatever the case may be. So really the challenge for business is to be able to utilize. Colin spoke about the immense amount of data that we have at our disposal. So yes, the threats are mounting, but by the same token, our ability to counter those threats have also increased, because we now have a lot more data at our disposal that we can use in our efforts to combat fraud, to ensure regulatory compliance. So really is leveraging off that big data, the volumes of data that we have. It was an interesting, there's a data scientist, an academic called Demings Fleming. He came up with the quotable quote that said, without data, you're just another person with an opinion. So that's very true. Another quotable quote that he made was, in God we trust, everyone else needs to bring data. So there lies our clue. So if we look at cyber, so cyber fraud is estimated is estimated in the survey done by Hamilton Place Strategies to be between 400 and 450 billion US dollars per annum. They expect it to increase to $2 trillion by 2019. Okay, that's a scary number. 34% of financial institutions expected to be targeted by some form of cyber threat within the next 2 years. So it's not a question of if we're going to be targeted, it's a question of when we're going to be targeted as an organization. If we take within the insurance space, insurance firms, and this here in fact comes from the Insider, June 2015, an insurance firm received fraudulent claims to the tune of $1.5 million within the first 4 months of 2015. That was here, in Zimbabwe. One of the issues around, for example, illicit fund flows, which impacts on the regulatory compliance space. So that's in the anti-money laundering space. Illicit financial flows annually amount to 50 billion US dollars. That's just here in Africa. Okay? To put things into perspective, the GDP of Zimbabwe in 2015 was 14.4 billion US dollars. So the enormity of this problem, or the challenge, is plain to see. Some of the these are things that I took out. I spoke about the 1.5 million rand claim. So that was in fact a quote by the chief executive from First Mutual Life Holdings. There was another article in the Herald, patients murdered in insurance scam. I thought this was a South African only problem. But now I see that it's clearly a problem that you guys have as well. So one of the schemes that in South Africa is where hospital staff, for example, treating a critically ill patient that they know has got 3 months to live, they then take out an insurance policy for that person's name, pay the premiums for 2 or 3 months, and then obviously the person passes away, they submit a claim. So down in KwaZulu-Natal, there was a whole syndicate that was operating, that was doing this. So I'm not sure if you guys taught us this, or we taught you this, or maybe the Nigerians taught both of us. I'm not quite sure. But anyway, but yeah, so that certainly is a common fraudulent scheme that resonates across the territory. An article in the Zim Independent, fraudulent claims are on the increase. So the reality is the problem is there and it's going to increase. And really what organizations such as yourself need to do is to look to be able to effectively combat things like insurance claim fraud. Within the telco space, there was a study, a survey done in 2013 by the Communications Fraud Control Association. They estimated annually telco fraud accounts for 46.3 billion US dollars. They estimate that on average, the fraud losses are in the region of 2% of your revenue. Now you take a telco, take the revenue number, multiply that by 2%, it's a big number. It still remains a big number. And irrespective of what industry you're looking at, fraud goes straight to the bottom line. Okay? There's no tax rebate, it's not a tax deductible expense, it goes straight to the bottom line. Okay? The interesting thing, for example, within the insurance space, is their estimates are that between 15 and 20% of cases settled by insurance companies contain some element of fraud. So we have a similar problem in South Africa. The South African Insurance Crime Bureau uses our fraud detection platform to detect syndicated cross-carrier insurance fraud. Our problem is in fact a bit bigger than that. Our problem is anything between 25 and 30%. So, but once again, if you take an insurance company or healthcare service provider and you take 15 to 20% of the claims value that they pay out, it's a big number. it's one that even if you reduce that number by 50%, so your problem is only between 7.5% and 10%, you're already making a huge impact on the bottom line. Okay, so I'm going to talk a bit about the challenges that we hear from a lot of either fraud or compliance people that currently work within organizations. So a lot of organizations adopt a manual or ad hoc detection process. So maybe there's some guys that do some ad hoc analytics to try and uncover fraudulent transactions, but obviously it's very reactive. Invariably, you only find out after the fact that you've suffered a loss. On top of that, specifically within the banking space, the frauds tend to happen very, very quickly. And to give you an idea, Standard Bank in South Africa suffered a fraud incident quite recently that was in the media. There was approximately $22 million that was cashed out using ATMs in Japan. I'm sure it would have hit the media in Zim. So and that happened in less than 3 hours. It was clear from the modus operandi that it involved insiders and a huge syndicated effort. These guys they accessed approximately 1,600 ATMs in 7-Eleven type outlets in Japan. They knew exactly when to attempt the withdrawal, so clearly they colluded with insiders. 22 million in less than 3 hours. Another notable example is the Bank of Bangladesh, which is their central bank. That was the SWIFT hack incident. They lost in the region of $81 billion in less than 24 hours. Also, the timing was perfect. I mean, there are actually a number of really well-written articles around that particular incident, and there's one article that takes you through the timeline that was followed, and it happened to be over a long weekend, and the SWIFT processing was quick, but the actual evaluation of SWIFT messages that had been highlighted as potentially fraudulent was not as quick, because it was a long weekend and it was different time zones. So the fraudsters or the syndicate timed this to perfection. Okay, $81 million in less than 24 hours. So the manual ad hoc approach is not going to protect you going forward. Okay, really what is required there is an automated fraud detection platform. So as Colin alluded, it may seem like a very big project initially, and yes, it's not a project to be taken lightly. The data management piece, the getting the platform, the configuring the platform, the business intelligence reporting piece are all big projects. So we're talking about, on average, say an AML project could take you, AML implementation could take you 3 months to implement an AML solution. Fraud, depending if you're looking at real-time fraud or near real-time fraud, could be a 6 to 8 month project. Okay, so it's a significant project. However, it's a journey that you need to embark on at some point in order to mitigate the risk of suffering significant fraudulent attacks. So, and the idea around the automation is really the subjecting of 100% of the transactions, whether it's insurance claims in the insurance space, it's banking transactions, it could be card or online transactions, to subject 100% of those transactions to an analytical model with the objective of identifying transactions or events with a high fraud propensity. That a warm body within the bank, or within the insurer, or within the telco can have a look at analyze, maybe triage that particular alert and make a decision, allow this transaction to go through or block it. That's really what you want, is to reduce your fraud losses. Right, some of the other problems that we hear a lot of organizations have that have some sort of automated platform in place is the current system generates a very high number of alerts with very high false positive rates. So that is the bane of anybody within the compliance division that's going to sit and work through these alerts. The last thing you want to do, in fact, is in the morning you get to the office and there are 1,000 alerts that you've got to work through, and you know that of the 1,000 alerts that you're going to work through and triage, there may be 5 that are productive money laundering alerts or real fraud alerts. So the idea, in response to this, or really what SAS brings to the equation here, is really the depth of advanced analytics that we apply during the analytical process in order to improve the integrity of the alerts that are generated by these solutions. So that automatically, if you improve the integrity of the alerts, you automatically reduce the false positive rates, which makes anybody within a compliance division or a fraud division a very happy person, because they know they're getting quality alerts coming out of the solution. I worked recently with a bank in Nigeria, and these guys were, their current system, unfortunately not SAS, but their current system was generating thousands of anti-money laundering alerts per day. They only have a limited number of compliance people that can work through these alerts. They were eventually just blanket closing these alerts, which, if you think, that's like playing Russian roulette with a regulator. Because if you've closed an alert that you should have reported or filed to the regulator, and it emerges at some point, and I always joke with the compliance people that, if you've closed something that you should have reported, it's a lot like infidelity. At some point, the story is going to come out. So similarly, during the next regulatory visit, chances are they're going to pick up those transactions that you should have reported. Then you're in big trouble. So really, it's the combination, and on the graphic, in SAS we refer to this as the hybrid approach to analytics. So it really is a combination of analytical techniques that are embedded in the solution with the idea of increasing as I mentioned, the integrity of the alerts. Some of the other things that I mentioned is, for example, the existing platforms are very rigid and black box. So as a business user or as the customer, you've just got this black box that just churns alerts out. You've got no idea what the underlying models or analytics looks like. So SAS's approach is to provide the customer with complete transparency around the rules and the models. We go a step further by training the customer's business community, the rules and models. Because the reality is, as you would know, the rules and models that you're using today may not be relevant, specifically when it comes to fraud. Fraud changes the whole time. Fraudsters are changing their modus operandi the whole time. They're agile, they're quick to adapt, try new ways. So similarly, from a detection perspective, you need to be as agile to meet those rising fraud threats. So SAS puts the customer in a position to be able to create new rules, new models, to change existing rules and models in order to respond to that. And so in effect it revolves around a rule or model authoring, simulation and deployment environment. So we have an environment where if you make a change to an existing rule or model, you run a simulation and you immediately see what the results of those model changes are. Similarly, if you create or author a brand new rule, you're able to run a simulation on large production. I'm not talking about on a small data set. On production size data sets, you can immediately see what the output from that would have been. Okay, then lastly, there's no easy way to explore disparate data sources and to more in a proactive manner start doing some proactive work in your fight against fraud, or your efforts to become more compliant from an AML perspective. So once again, SAS's approach is to provide the customer with an exploratory analytical environment where, and I'm talking about which can be used by the business user. It's an intuitive drag and drop type of environment. It has heat map capabilities, so it's got for heat map and geo mapping, etc. So it applies multiple. You can apply multiple techniques or graphing options to the data that you want to explore and do some proactive work in. Just quickly on that note, so if you at least move from a compliance perspective or a fraud detection perspective, where you've got a platform in place that is churning out high quality alerts, that starts freeing people up in your compliance or your fraud division that can now start doing some proactive work. So for example, things like customer segmentation. So where you start doing things like mule account segmentation within your database. So you're proactively running some analytics to identify potential mule accounts, which has an impact within the fraud and the AML space. Or you start doing victim propensity rating. So where you start, for example, looking at your customer base and analytically segmenting the customer base to ascertain who would be more likely to be a victim of fraud than another group. So let me give you an example. So elderly, for example, elderly people that have mobile banking, online banking facilities, high wealth individuals, but they're not that, they're not as savvy with the online banking as what youngsters are. So they could potentially be more susceptible to a fraudulent attack than what a young tech-savvy person is that uses online banking on a daily basis. There's a multitude of segmentations and some analytics that you can do as a proactive measure. Right, so just very quickly, so what SAS covers from a solution perspective is obviously within the regulatory compliance space, transaction monitoring, customer screening, payment screening. So we have a solution stack that, and I've just split it out. I've split it out here. They can be deployed as separate solutions. We have for a lot of customers deployed them as an integrated solution. So we cover anti-money laundering, customer due diligence, which looks at from onboarding, performing the KYC and customer due diligence process throughout the life cycle of the customer. There's also SAS FATCA, which really depending on the regulator's stance, and in actual fact, the banks, the revenue that the banks earn from US sources, that really drives the compliance relating to FATCA. A lot of banks, and there's a phased roadmap by which FATCA needs to be deployed. But the short of it is that there is a technical solution platform response to FATCA. Right, then on the fraud detection side, SAS has a fraud detection platform. We have IP across multiple industries, banking, insurance, telcos being of our more mature solutions. We also cover things like procurement fraud, which is cross-industry, which really forms part of enterprise fraud. So that looks at not industry-specific, but cross-industry or cross-enterprise. So that would be things like procurement fraud, HR and payroll fraud, inventory fraud, etc. And we have the capability to deploy this in real time, near real time, or intraday. That is really driven by what the operational requirement would be from the bank side, or from the telco or insurance company side. And then lastly, we have an enterprise case management solution that's a workflow-driven solution. So conceptually, if you think you've got your fraud detection platform that raises alerts for the alerts that warrant more detailed investigation, they would then be pushed through to a case management environment, which then would allow the investigators to build a case, collect electronic evidence that you can attach to the case management solution, create investigative diaries and workflows and so forth. Okay, then I'm not going to labour through this, but in essence, this will be obviously part of the deck. But in essence, how the solution works, just very quickly, is you've got multiple data sources across the top. So your source data, the data then goes through a data management or data prep stage. So this is because you're working with data from multiple internal as well as external sources. This is where data quality, data standardization techniques are applied in preparation for the data to go through the alert generation process. So this is where the analytics really comes to bear. Is through the alert generation process. There's alert enrichment, which is part of the alert generation process, and then you get the case management process. On the left-hand side, that just talks around the sandbox or model development environment that SAS has. So that's where you do some proactive data analytical procedures. And then obviously you've got the management information and reporting side, which really rounds the whole solution. Okay, this just talks around the phased approach. So the important thing is, the important point is, yes, it's a big task, but as Colin said, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So you need to start at some point, and from a fraud detection perspective, a good place to start would be, as an organization, as an industry, where do you estimate your biggest fraud threat to be? Is it cyber events? Is it card fraud? Is it application fraud? Is it internal fraud? And then to focus on that as the first module, if you like. Because once the platform is in, the data management, the analytics is in place, the BI and reporting, once the platform is in, you then, in a modular way, address the different types of fraud topologies that you need to address. Then it's a much simpler process to move from internal fraud to card, to online banking, to application fraud. For example, in the telco space, network and device fraud, sales and distribution, billing fraud. In the insurance space, claims might be your biggest problem. You then move to underwriting. You can then modularize the deployment of it. Right, there's a slide here on the analyst review. So this is by Chartris and Forrester. It just shows what the external analysts, how they view the SAS fraud detection module. So it just kind of gives you the warm and fuzzy that, these guys know what they do. Right? Solution benefits are listed here. We've touched on a lot of these, so I'm not going to labour through these. But in essence, ultimately it comes down to preventing, on the fraud space, preventing fraudulent losses. Okay? That's obviously the ideal. That is where you need to be with a fraud detection platform. That's what you should be achieving with a fraud detection platform. From a compliance perspective, is obviously the ensuring that you comply with local regulations, etc., to avoid fines. I know in a lot of instances, compliance solutions tend to be a grudge purchase because the perception is that you're not getting any value out of an AML solution. all you're doing is you're trying to avoid a fine by the regulator. In terms of the long-term vision, a lot of where you look to combine compliance and fraud detection, because remember, a lot of the data sources are the same. Customer information, transactional information you need for AML, you use for fraud detection as well. So there's at least that positive synergy between the two solutions. Okay, and then the SaaS proposition, a lot of this has been covered by Sean. I also touched on our approach to analytics and being able to provide the customer and provide the training to the customer staff to create their own analytical models and so forth. And then, extensive training I spoke about as well. So we will ensure at the end of an implementation that internally your staff from the platform administration through to the analysts and the business users are trained up to use the solution. On top of that, you have, for example, if you do require external assistance, ECB is down the road, and SAS is a 3-hour flight away. Okay. Right, and that was it. How are we doing for time? Good. Are there any questions?
I want to inquire on the solution overview, whereby you said you also monitor the FATCA sanctions list.
Also monitor FATCA.
FATCA, yes.
Yep.
But as you are aware, there are quite a number of sanctions. Another example is the EU sanctions list. And here in Zimbabwe, there are sanctions lists which are regulatory, which institutions are required to monitor. United Nations Security Council sanctions list to deal with Al-Qaeda, also.
Yes.
Does also your software also monitor
Yep.
such kind of stuff?
Yes, it does. So the software, so as part of the sanctions and payment screening, we provide the ability and the screening against, for example, OFAC, various watch lists that are available, as well as like the subscription watch lists like WorldCheck, Dow Jones, etc. So SAS is not a provider of a watch list. The watch lists are maintained by other organizations. What we do is we provide the ability to access and ingest the data from those watch lists.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Yes, madam.
Morning, everyone. Seeing that it is in the system of investment, therefore you should provide a return to the organization. Assume you purchase the system, and then you still have a fraud. Having done everything that you need to have done. Would there be
A recourse.
what would you get from that? I'm just asking in terms of value aid to the organization.
Yeah.
I understand the AMO side, the compliance monitoring side.
Yeah.
But in terms of the system, you say the value add, is there some form of, you get a fraud, you get the same term, is there anything to that effect?
Okay. Unfortunately, that would be, for example, if Mercedes-Benz gives you a guarantee that if you drive a Mercedes-Benz, you won't ever die in a car accident. It's a guarantee that nobody can give. Because I provide you with the technology. How you use it, how you interpret the results is in your hands. Just as Mercedes provides you with a car with safety technology, but if you use it recklessly or in a manner that you shouldn't be, you're still going to end up killing yourself. So no, you won't find a software vendor that will guarantee the results of the system, because obviously I provide you with the technology. What the whole process is made up of people, technology,